What's up, Bills Mafia? Hopping on right after the Buffalo Bills game. Ryan Thomas here, hopping on the Thomas Take Sports podcast to recap the Buffalo Bills' resounding victory over the New England Patriots as the Bills win this one by a score of 38-9, sweeping the New England Patriots for the first time since 1999. The Bills got it done and then some in this one. Hopping on here shortly after the game, and I have not fully been able to digest this one. It's so soon after the fact. The game literally just wrapped up here. But I wanted to hop on as soon as I could to dive into this game, answer any questions, pardon me, that you guys might have in regards to this Buffalo Bills game. Of course, fire away some comments. The Bills swept the Patriots for the first time since 1999, first time since any team in the AFC East has swept the Patriots since 2000. And wow. Can I say wow again? It's like each and every week I am left speechless by how dominant this Buffalo Bills team is. It's a Monday night. Most of you guys got to go to work tomorrow. I got to go to work tomorrow as well, working the day job. But you have to recap this game while this game is still fresh in your mind. You have to give the Bills Mafia the content that they deserve. And the Bills Mafia is getting the team that they finally have waited for. The team that they deserve, that they've waited for. They're finally getting the team that they have deserved for a long, long time. This is the Buffalo Bills post-game show. The Bills moved to 12-3, obviously with that 38-9 victory over the Patriots. And Josh Allen breaks Jim Kelly's records again. More records. Records are made to be broken, and Josh Allen is just erasing Jim Kelly's name out of these Bills record books and writing his name in as the new record holder for touchdown passes in a single season. Jim Kelly had 33 touchdown passes. Josh Allen now has 34 touchdown passes this season. And we're living in a different era of football. This game is much, much different than the game that Jim Kelly even played. But to know that the Bills finally have their guy, and I've said it on this show a time or two, I'm happy that I was right. I have never been more happy about any topic that I've ever boasted about than that of the Bills making the right decision by taking Josh Allen with the 7th overall selection in the 2018 NFL draft. And this is Josh Allen's coming out party. I mean, the Monday Night Football broadcast team, Steve Levy, Louis Riddick, Brian Greasy, stated that, now that the Bills have had 4 consecutive primetime games and they've performed at such a high level in every instance these last 4 weeks, in every way, shape, or form these last 4 weeks, not many people can doubt the Bills right now. The Bills are a contender. And the big picture is, okay, a couple weeks ago, can the Bills perform on primetime? Can they win? Can they perform at a high level on primetime? They have done that. 4 weeks later, the conversation has now changed to a date with destiny. And the date with destiny is champion versus contender. And it goes to the old adage of, combat sports. I cover mixed martial arts on this show. I cover boxing on this show. And a great fight is when you have the 2 best go head-to-head. 2 of the best go head-to-head, whether it's the heavyweight champion of Muhammad Ali versus his arch rival in Joe Frazier, or Frazier versus Ali, however you want to, coin that. When you have a champion and a contender that are the 2 best, that makes for an exciting matchup. And in this case, the date with destiny, champion versus contender, is that of the Kansas City Chiefs, the champions, versus the contenders in the Buffalo Bills. This is the matchup of the 2020 NFL season. This is the matchup that each and every NFL football fan should be salivating over. Whether you're a Bills fan or not, whether you're a Chiefs fan or not, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills is now the marquee matchup that football fans have to see. They've seen it. We saw it earlier this season Unfortunately for the Buffalo Bills, they came away with the loss in that game. That essentially, outside of the Hail Murray play, is the last loss that the Buffalo Bills have suffered this season. As I mentioned at the top of the show, and as you guys know very well, the Bills are now 12-3. So the Chiefs 14-1, the Bills 12-3. The Chiefs could have easily been 12-3 in their own right, could have easily been 13-2 if Young Ho Koo's kick went through the uprights yesterday. So the fact that we see some wrinkles, we see some ripples in the armor, I guess you could say chinks in the armor of the Kansas City Chiefs and of Pat Mahomes these last few weeks, that the chatter that was once chatter is now legitimate chatter, in the sense that the Buffalo Bills have performed at an extremely high level these last few weeks, while the Chiefs have shown that they have some vulnerabilities. And the question is, can the Buffalo Bills go drive for drive offensively with the Chiefs? If you're judging that based off of their performances tonight against New England, Denver, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco, you would say 100% yes. But the question is now, can the Bills defense stop Pat Mahomes to give their offense the ball back? That's the big question. And this Bills defense has looked fantastic these last few weeks as well. Now, the story is this red hot Buffalo Bills offense. The Bills were able to move the ball down the field effectively in the first half, largely without Stefon Diggs. Bear with me, I'm getting to that. But largely without Stefon Diggs, the Bills were able to move the football and were able to get things moving. I thought Devin Singletary and Zach Moss were used quite efficiently early on in this one. Dawson Knox made a terrible drop, but totally redeemed himself, in the words of Harry and Dumb and Dumber. Dawson Knox totally redeemed himself with one of the most ridiculous catches you will ever see watching any Buffalo Bills game this season. It was maybe the best catch of the entire year. How he caught this ball that Josh Allen just somewhat forced in there, I don't know how he did it. It was one of the best catches I've seen from a Buffalo Bills player all season long. But Dawson Knox made that catch, and this is a guy that has been, basically thrown to the lion's den, to the wolves, I guess you could say, as well, due to the fact that he hasn't really performed at his fullest capability, to his best, I should say. So this red hot Buffalo Bills offense, although it's been red hot, there have been moments where you have seen contributions from everyone. This isn't just a one-trick pony offense, Allen to Diggs. There are other guys on this offense, as you guys know, Cole Beasley, Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis had a great double move where he burned the corner. Bill Belichick saw that it was going to happen before it happened, given the formation, given the play, called that timeout, and that's what makes Bill Belichick this mad scientist, this genius of a coach that can see things before they happen. And had he not, seen that play itself out, we would have had a big touchdown on our hands. But, it was amazing tonight watching this game take shape and play itself out, because tonight in the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Fantasy Football League, and I want to remind you guys of this just for your listening pleasure, I have a fantasy league dedicated to the podcast that I have my biggest listeners, my most common, viewers, people that throw comments towards me during the show. I go against them in fantasy football. And Stefon Diggs, the first catch that he had was what won me my fantasy football championship for that league. But the 50-yard touchdown was like what put it over the top. And it was nice to have that resounding play that stamped me in as a champion for the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Fantasy Football League, and having it come from Allen to Diggs. Sidebar there, that was just a moment in tonight's game that really got me going. So that was great. But this is the postgame show. And I think in this case of it being a postgame show, I have to bring up the pregame show. I had Phil Munson join me, a great buddy of mine. He's been on the show multiple times before. We met during one of the Buffalo Podathons in the area. And I think this was my best pregame show. I called this game to a T. There was no stone left unturned by your boy Hemi RT in this one. I called this game to a T. New England's run defense is not that great. Buffalo would find success in the run department in this game, seldomly, but early they were able to run the ball a little bit. Not very, very well, but more than they have in previous weeks, which doesn't say a ton, but says enough to, kind of just opening the game. I thought Buffalo would attack the Patriots via the run game, and they did. I also mentioned the fact that Cam Newton would get benched in this game. That was the hot take of the game. Cam Newton did get benched in this game for Jarrett Stidham. And the Buffalo Bills played like the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen today, 27 of 36, 320 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns as he passes, obviously, Jim Kelly's single season touchdown record. And 0 interceptions, wasn't even touched in the pocket. What a tremendous job by the Buffalo Bills offensive line in this one, pass blocking. Josh Allen wasn't even touched in this game by a Patriots defender from the pocket. Whether he extended the play outside the pocket or not, they were not penetrating our offensive line. This Buffalo Bills offensive line, in terms of pass blocking, was a brick wall tonight. And Josh Allen was also the leading rusher tonight with 35 rushing yards. Now, I did mention that they were able to run the ball a little bit. I mean, a little bit in the fact that they did it early to set up the pass. And I knew New England would let them do that because New England is just not a good team. So after a quiet first half, I'm not going to lie, J.C. Jackson had me a little bit nervous in terms of this fantasy football matchup. A quiet first half indeed for Stefon Diggs, but Diggs finished the game with 9 catches, 145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I say 145. You guys know what I mean by that. 145 and 3 touchdowns, 145 yards and 3 touchdowns. What a performance from Stefon Diggs. This was probably the yards after catch game that Diggs has been chomping at the bit to have, and he finally had it against a Bill Belichick-led defense. And it's not like Stefon Diggs hasn't had yards after catch all season long, but a lot of those catches today, a lot of those catches tonight were yards after catch, and it was a thing of beauty, especially the 50-yard touchdown that had me super hyped. No doubt about it, that was the play of the game. And I loved seeing it because on one hand, I wanted to see the Buffalo Bills bury the Bill Belichick New England Patriots. I wanted to see that happen. I wanted to see us just completely destroy them. We did destroy them. We beat them resoundingly. This game was never in doubt for me. I always believed that the Buffalo Bills would win this one in dominant fashion, and I predicted as such in the pregame show. I thought that this would be a big, big victory for the Buffalo Bills, and I truly believe that this team is destined with the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a date with destiny, as I mentioned, and champion versus contender. Bring it on. Why not? Why not us? I'm not at a point anymore where I'm doubting these Buffalo Bills. I'm at a point where I feel as if it is a date with destiny that the Buffalo Bills right the wrong that they suffered during the season against the Kansas City Chiefs and as well as the Arizona Cardinals and knock off the defending Super Bowl champions. That is the destiny, I think, of the Bills in order to get back to the big dance for the first time since the early 1990s. Could you imagine what that would do to this city? Could you imagine what that would do to this fan base if the Buffalo Bills knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs and ultimately played in the Super Bowl this year? Pandemic aside, COVID-19 aside, I don't care. I am finding a way to go to that Super Bowl. I will be there. I have no trepidation over that whatsoever. As long as I'm wearing my mask, as long as I'm washing my hands, I'm staying safe. I have a date with destiny to see the Bills play in a Super Bowl. And the Bills, I think, have a date with destiny to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, knock them out of the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but when they do it, they will be AFC champions, and it could be this season. I'm not going to say it won't be this season I'm not going to say that it is going to be this season. We'll see what happens. That's kind of the mindset that I have as a Bills fan, so that I don't let myself down. But at the same time, this team is for real. They are legitimate. And they had a 21-point second quarter. This was a fast-paced Buffalo Bills offense tonight that was shades of the Kansas City Chiefs and was also shades of the K-Gun. This broadcast team, for as knowledgeable as they are, they mentioned that the K-Gun was named after Jim Kelly. Not so fast. Fun fact, the K-Gun was named after Keith McKellar, tight end for the Buffalo Bills at that time, was not named after Jim Kelly. That's oftentimes misconstrued, and it was on the broadcast tonight. I was like, man, they didn't get that right, so I have to correct them. It's only fair. But tonight, at moments during the game, Buffalo's run D was suspect. But overall, this was a flawless game. And that, without a doubt, is the factor that I think needs to be played into this matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs. The date with destiny that I believe the Bills do have with the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe that they will have that date with destiny. But it could go wrong for us if we don't shore up that run defense, if we don't stop Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who is such a dynamic running back, or the reinforcement that was brought in via the Jets due to the fact that he was cut from the Jets and Le'Veon Bell. Kansas City said, screw it. We're not throwing it. We're going to run it. And who's to say that the Bills are fully ready and willing and able to stop that quite yet? Easier said than done when you have two talented running backs. But as of now, the first round, the Buffalo Bills play the Cleveland Browns in the wild card round of the playoffs. The Browns were bumped down to the 7th seed due to the fact that they lost to the New York Jets, which was astounding and hilarious at the same time. I would love that matchup. I know that it's a tough matchup. Any matchup in the playoffs is tough. And in this case, it's extremely tough when you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt at running back. And I just mentioned that the Bills' run defense has been suspect, but that's the perfect test to allow the Bills to move on. If the Bills can pass that test against Cleveland, barring anything crazy, if the playoffs, started next week, that's who we would play. I think that's a great test. I think it's the perfect opportunity. People look at these matchups and say, oh, that's a bad matchup for the Bills. I say, no, not a bad matchup, but a big test. The right test for the Buffalo Bills. And that's how I see the Cleveland Browns. I'm not that high on Baker Mayfield. I know that there are certain weeks where he can really show that he is a franchise quarterback, but then there are other weeks where he's not quite there. And, I think that this run game is the most fearsome dynamic of this Cleveland Browns team. But what a game tonight. And I will say that Brian Daboll deserves his credit. And Brian Daboll was somebody that I make zero bones about it. I was extremely frustrated last season with Brian Daboll and somewhat of his lackluster, safe play calling week in, week out. Early in the season, there were some training wheels on this offense. And thankfully, by the time they played the LA Rams, the training wheels came off, and that's when you really started to see the firepower that this offense has. And Daboll has just led this offense to unprecedented numbers. Stefon Diggs is breaking single-season receptions records, single-season yards records. In his first season as a member of the Buffalo Bills, he's breaking franchise records. It is single-season franchise records. It's remarkable. And, Brian Daboll does deserve a lot of credit, and I have given it to him. But I will say this. If we are going to give credit where credit is due, it is due to Brian Daboll. He is a hot name in terms of the head coaching search out there for some of these clubs that are looking for some of these franchises, I should say, that are looking for a new head coach. And I'm sure that Daboll will probably be a head coach next year, and that he probably will leave the Buffalo Bills. I have a lot of opinions on that. I think that would be a mistake on Daboll's part, given how talented this offense is and that the job that he signed up for isn't quite finished and won't be finished until the Bills win a Super Bowl. But this is a business. You only have 31 other head coaching jobs in the league. He's obviously not going to be the Bills head coach. That's McDermott's job. And it's going to be McDermott's job for a very long time. So I don't blame Dable in the sense that, there's only X amount of head coaching jobs. But I do, say you're a local guy. You went to St. Francis. You came to Buffalo to be reunited with, your family and obviously help us build a winner. You've helped us build a winner. You've helped us succeed on the offensive side of the ball, which is the offense that you are calling week in, week out. Why leave without the mission accomplished? That's just the type of person I am. Why would I leave a position without the mission accomplished? Why would I do that prematurely? But it's easier for me to say it sitting here where Brian Dable has been waiting for a head coaching opportunity in the NFL his entire coaching career. So easier said than done. But I believe not only does Brian Dable deserve credit, but where is the credit to Ken Dorsey? Ken Dorsey is the quarterback's coach for the Buffalo Bills and former quarterback that had a pretty decent college career, didn't quite pan out in the NFL at the NFL level, but is a player that was a player and is a player turned coach that I think Josh Allen has mightily benefited from and is the front runner, Ken Dorsey, that is, the front runner to becoming the next offensive coordinator if Brian Dable were to leave. Ken Dorsey has done a phenomenal job as well. It has been well documented that Ken Dorsey and Josh Allen have a great relationship, as well as Josh Allen and Brian Dable. But it has been well documented that Jordan Palmer, as well, former NFL quarterback, was a little bit of a journeyman in his NFL career, but in terms of his coaching acumen, Jordan Palmer has greatly helped Josh Allen become the player that he is during the offseason. Allen heavily relies upon Jordan Palmer's instructions and his training methods towards perfecting his game. And, we know how that is shaped out. Jordan Palmer's realizing that Josh Allen's only throwing with his arm and not his hip, gets him to start throwing with his hip, and those passes become more accurate. Troy Aikman, Pro Football Hall of Famer, said, and I quote, "You can't fix accuracy." And Josh Allen does not have accuracy, and he thought that it was a bad pick by the Bills. Many people within the Buffalo media, Buffalo podcasters, national media, said that Josh Allen was a terrible pick by the Buffalo Bills. They will never admit to it, but they said it. I, on the other hand, did not. I, on the other hand, wanted Josh Allen here in Buffalo. I thought he was the perfect fit for this team. And I thought that he was a work in progress. And if you stayed patient with him, you would reap the reward. And there were moments of struggle his rookie year. There were moments of struggle even last year where you scratched your head and said, why did he force that throw? Or why didn't he slide? Why didn't he get down? Those moments are few and far between now. Somewhere along the way this season, Josh Allen said, I'm going to rely on the weapons around me and let them take care of the rest. Get them the ball and let them take care of the rest. Whether it's Cole Beasley, Stefon Diggs, John Brown when he's healthy. I'm hoping that John Brown is okay with his COVID diagnosis. I'm hoping that he's going to end up being all right for next week's game or even the playoffs. But this team is an amazing team. This team is rightfully so the second seed in the AFC, and they are a contender. They are not a pretender. This is a team that is for real, whether other AFC's fan bases want to admit it or not. Let's segue that, and I will answer all of your questions in just a sec here, so just bear with me here as you guys are tuning in live on Facebook, YouTube, streaming the show currently. You guys will also be listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Greatly appreciate all the love and support from Bills Mafia. You guys are amazing. But let's address the elephant in the room, as I like to say. Let's talk about the Patriots for a minute here. This broadcast team within Monday Night Football, I have a ton of respect for. Steve Levy, great broadcaster. Brian Greasy, very knowledgeable. Louis Riddick, one of the better player personnel talent evaluators from an analyst desk, I would say. Louis Riddick is right up there at the top. I think he's fantastic. So I say that, but on the other end of things, watching this game tonight, I take notice of the broadcasts due to the fact that I'm a podcaster, due to the fact that I've been on a lot of other shows throughout the last, 5 years. I understand the game in that way, in describing it to an audience, whether I'm with a guest or whether I'm talking to you guys right now. And the way this game was presented to us honestly frustrated me. And I don't know if many people are going to have this take, but this is my God's honest take. The game repeatedly became more about how the Patriots aren't what they used to be rather than what the Bills are. Now, I know that the Bills did get their credit, but you start to get into the soap opera-esque storyline about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady rather than Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. You start to deviate away from what actually presented itself tonight in the sense that the Patriots are a terrible team. Cam Newton is a terrible quarterback. Cam Newton is done, should be done. The National Football League should be done with Cam Newton. He should never start another game in his NFL career after tonight. That's the story. Whether they want to admit that or not is another story. But that is the story. Cam Newton was terrible tonight. Cam Newton looked like he quit on his teammates, and Cam Newton is not a starting quarterback in this league. The other end of that is this team is a bad team. This team meaning the Patriots, this team did invest, put all their eggs in one basket. The Patriots put all their eggs in one basket trying to win a Super Bowl year after year with Brady and company. Brady leaves, Kyle Van Noy leaves. Other players opt out due to COVID. Other players decide that they're done, that they're moving on. They're going into free agency. They're signing with other teams. The fact that this broadcast team took sympathy, and I'm going to say this, sympathy with the Patriots, with the New England Patriots, who have dominated the last 20 years of football, only to have one bad season at 6-10, 6-9, whatever they are right now, 6-9. Most likely going to be 6-10 because they're pretty bad. It made me pretty sick. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It frustrated me. They've won more than enough. They were gift wrapped the greatest quarterback to ever play the game, in my opinion, and Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback that I've ever seen. We'll just say that for all of the, dads and grandfathers and grandmothers and mothers that are tuning into this show. You guys might think Joe Montana is better. You guys might think Dan Marino is better. You might think, Brett Favre is better. Peyton Manning is better. I don't know. You guys might think that those quarterbacks are better. For my money, in terms of my watching, football watching experience, I would say that Tom Brady's the best. And he fell into the lap of the New England Patriots in the 6th round. They go on to have a 20-year run. They win 6 Super Bowls. They compete in, 11 Super Bowls or something crazy like that? Spare me, Louis Riddick. Spare me, Brian Griese, and spare me, Steve Levy, with the thought that I should have any sympathy for the Patriots and what they're going through. Is this a rebuild? Oh, the Patriots fans are hoping that it's not. Cut the crap. I don't give a damn about the Patriots fans. I don't care if the Patriots fans feel like they are, oh no, we're not going to be good for a while. You guys were good long enough. Now the shoe is on the other foot. Now the Buffalo Bills can be the dominant team that they once were once again. And the Patriots can go back to being the cellar-dwelling team that they were when the Buffalo Bills were on top. It's just the way that it goes. This is a peaks and valleys league. One time, one stretch of time, it's one team's time, and another stretch of time, it's another team's time. The Miami Dolphins dominated a decade of football. The Bills didn't beat the Dolphins in the entire 1970s decade. So we throw that in there as well. The New York Jets were looked at as NFL royalty when Joe Namath, Broadway Joe, predicted that they'd beat the Baltimore Colts and then eventually did so. So I don't want to hear any of this garbage about woe is me, the Patriots fan base, they got to wait to see a winner. What's going to happen to the Patriots? No one gives a rat's you-know-what about the New England Patriots. Even New England Patriots fans should realize that they had their day in the sun, and it was a pretty long day in the sun, let me tell you that, to the point where they're sunburned. That's to the point that it's at. So spare me with that, guys. And that's the narrative that this game will illustrate. And that's the narrative that is the wrong narrative. The narrative is the Patriots are bad and the Bills are very good. The Bills have finally found their next Jim Kelly, and they've finally found their next Marv Levy. And I'm not saying that comparing the two. I'm saying it in the sense that we waited 25 plus years to win the AFC's title. We've also waited a long time to find a glimpse of what Jim Kelly meant for this franchise, find a glimpse of what Marv Levy meant for this franchise. Those were the only glory days that we could go back to. And knowing that we are in the midst of a new glory day with a new coach, with another coach in Sean McDermott and a new quarterback in Josh Allen, it is just icing on the cake, and it is very, very much deserved for a fan base that is not just the best fan base in the National Football League, but is simply the best fan base in the world of sports. This is the best fan base in the world. So that's how I see it. Ed Blasick says the Bills are hot right now. What better time than now? Let's go. There is no better time than now, Ed. The time is now for the Buffalo Bills. And regardless of how the season ends, the Bills could lose in the AFC Championship game to the Kansas City Chiefs. I will never forget this season. And COVID has a lot to do with that. But as well, the season is really the only thing that has kept guys like me going during this COVID-19 pandemic. And I think a lot of people would agree with me on that this Buffalo Bills team is so special that without this season, we would have been losing our minds as Buffalo Bills fans without the Buffalo Bills this season. So I'm happy that the NFL season has gone fairly smoothly. Ken Zintel says, other than some Butterfingers, the only thing we need is a better run defense. I agree with you, Ken. I would say that this run defense can be soft up the middle and can fail to adjust to counter plays, to delays, and draws. Those are the three varieties of run plays that really hurt this defense the most. Daniel Wicklander Jr. says, when the Buffalo Bills can make Bill throw his phone, it's a great day. That too, Bill Belichick is frustrated because he knows that he's going to have to hit the reset button. And, you know, the whole age-old question, who would need who more? Did Tom need Bill more or did Bill need Tom more? The answer to that question is that Bill needed Tom more. And that is what I had always thought. And I'm not just saying this. I've talked about this on my show before. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, in my opinion, but he's also the greatest steal that any team has ever drafted. And prior to Brady, Bill Belichick was not a great head coach. He did not have the results that he had until he found Tom Brady. Obviously, Brady was developed. Bill Belichick brought in the right offensive coaches to help Brady, and that's to Bill Belichick's credit. But with the competitive nature that Tom Brady has, that is what made Tom Brady who he is today and who he was and who he always will be. And without that edge from the game's most important position, you lose a lot in the locker room from that. And, you know, I think that I've seen that from a personal standpoint, whether it be in wrestling or baseball. If you have only one guy with a personality that can somewhat captivate and cultivate a team environment, that's better than none. That's better than none. One guy is better than none. And at the game's most important position, that was definitely Tom Brady. Ed Blasick says that the Kansas City Chiefs are not ready for this. They have not been that great. They find a way to win. This team is so much better than we were when we played Kansas City last. I agree with you. A very different team indeed, and a much more confident / different Josh Allen. I mean, the body language that Josh Allen has each and every snap, I think, is one that exudes confidence and one that lets us know that he believes he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league because he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Michael Trask says the Bills are good, scary good. I love the RJ connection there. Rick Generat, shout out to him. He's amazing. But all in all, I am ecstatic, and I really feel to close the show, week 17, they play the Miami Dolphins. I'd love to see the Bills squish the fish as much as anybody, but we really need to take this seriously. Cole Beasley was out there late in this game, and he suffered an injury. No word on what it was and what it could potentially be long term. If it is long term, we'll find out. But I don't want to see any of these Bills players get hurt. I want to see the Bills come into the playoffs full steam ahead with all of their weapons at their disposal. I don't want any of these guys getting hurt. And I believe that the Bills should rest their starters next week. I don't want to see Josh Allen out there in a meaningless Week 17 game. The goal is to win the Super Bowl. Can the Bills do it? Man, this is the best team I've seen in my entire life as a Bills fan. And you guys will say, well, what about the Super Bowl teams? I was 2 years old when they went to their fourth Super Bowl. So I didn't really get to see that stuff. And that's what makes this time period such an amazing time period for myself in not just, as a fan, but it's an amazing time period to be a fan of a team and to have the capabilities that I have of producing and recording and creating this show and interacting with other Bills fans. It's a big blessing to witness what we have witnessed the last, I'd say, 6-7 weeks as Bills fans in our 25, 26, 27, 28 years of age. We have not really seen positive results of the Buffalo Bills throughout our entire lives until right now. So it's amazing. And can I say I was right about Josh Allen again? Did I mention that? I don't know if I'll ever stop mentioning that, but I was right about Josh Allen. And those that have followed me on this show will attest to it, and we'll stick up for that fact. Was I a little bit too hard on Brian Dable? Yeah, we'll go with that. I was so frustrated last year with Dable. I thought he played things so safe, but the reality of the situation is, and always will be, you didn't have Stefon Diggs. And I think Stefon Diggs has changed the entire landscape of this Buffalo Bills offense as well as this Buffalo Bills team. What a great player he is, and what an amazing offense this has turned out to be. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Buffalo Bills Week 16 post-game show as the Buffalo Bills sweep the New England Patriots through the 2020 season for the first time since 1999. The Bills look to go 13-3 next week as they take on the Miami Dolphins. Cannot wait for that. It'll be very weird watching the Bills during a Sunday afternoon. It'll be a little bit odd, but it's a game that I'm excited for. As always, I love watching this team and covering this team on the show and providing you guys with content that you really enjoy. I'm going to check the personal Facebook and see if there are any comments on this one, and see what some of the peeps are saying. I believe that this is one that we'll remember for a long time, and maybe we could have run up the score a little bit. To some of the comments there, we could have run up the score a little bit, but no, we got the win. Let's stay healthy. Let's stay perfect in terms of our team bringing the best team into the playoffs, best version of ourselves into the playoffs. That's what I want. Take care, everybody. Go Bills. Stay tuned for more next week. Pre-game, post-game, Wednesday show, you name it. It'll be available. Stay safe. And, of course, follow me on Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take. You can subscribe to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. And like the Facebook page as well. I greatly appreciate the support. Take care.